I want to talk a little bit about growth, but also about once we've got customers, what we do to keep them, and also some of the things that can go wrong, how best to learn from that and make sure it doesn't happen more than once. The areas that I think have worked well for us and where we've been successful is one, a real focus on particular sectors. So we've built up a specialist focus in a number of sectors, accountancy practices, legal practices, not-for-profit sector, and I'm going to talk about payroll in a minute. So making sure that we differentiate from our competition through focus and specialist knowledge. Another thing which has been different from quite a few of our competitors is having the complete control over our channel of distribution. So from very early on, what we've built is a sales and marketing machine, initially with field sales, then moving into telesales, and then a combination of telesales and the web and field now, in order to ensure that as we design and produce products, we've then got a direct route to market, and we've got a complete feedback loop because we're supporting those customers as well. The third thing has been about building a subscription model. So SaaS, for those of you that are familiar with it, but from an economic point of view, in that many of the products that we sell, we've actually built a subscription model around it, and therefore what we're able to do is what I sort of use as an analogy, it's a bit like Sky, that to buy the box initially will cost you a fortune, but what we've got is customers who are paying over a period of time for very sophisticated software. And then the fourth bit, which has sort of helped us grow, has been a whole M&A machine to buy up software companies around the UK. We're very UK focused, but software companies around the UK where we're able to then feed those products into the sales and marketing machine, which I mentioned earlier. But I'm not actually going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about the customer experience. And it's the link between the customer experience and real loyalty to make sure those customers keep on coming back. And one of the things I just wanted to ask, actually, just a bit of hand raising, is out of this audience here, which of you would actually recommend coming to another BLN seminar after today? So, just
that's good.
Mark didn't know I was going to ask that question. Hopefully when I finish, you'll still want to come back. But what I wanted to talk about really was the customer experience, because one thing every single one of us has got in common, regardless of what business we're in, is we're selling experiences. We're not selling products, we're not selling services, we're selling a total experience. And you might have the best product in the world, but unless you're actually supporting it well, then you can ruin the experience. You might have a poor product, but really good service, but the poor product would ruin the experience. And you might have both of those really good, but you actually cock up on the invoicing or something, and then it all goes wrong. Even though your product's great and your service is good, something else actually ruins the experience. So what's really important is to make sure that the total end-to-end experience is one which is really powerful. One of the companies which I really admire is Harley-Davidson. Harley-Davidson have been recognized for years as having one of the most loyal customer bases of any company globally. So loyal that their customers will get the brand tattooed onto different parts of their body. We've been trying for years to get our customers to do that and our employees. I'm still working on it. I actually had the tattoos which are supposed to be delivered today, but I'll work on that next week. But the important thing really is that when you ask Harley-Davidson what they're all about, their customer experience is not selling motorbikes. It's to provide the ability for a 40-year-old or 40-something-year-old accountant to dress in black leather and to drive through small villages scaring people at weekends. That's what they offer. And they sell on the back of it. So what I wanted to talk about next really was when it goes wrong, because building a business to scale, the reality is that you only learn from when things go wrong. You don't learn so much from when they go right. So what I said to Mark was I'd share with you an experience that I had that I still sort of wake up in cold sweats at night because it was pretty horrific for us, where things went wrong, but where we learnt a lot from it and where we used it as an opportunity to turn things around. We provide payroll software to about 35,000 businesses directly, but because we also supply payroll bureaus on the high street, it's about 200,000 businesses in total. And about 5 years ago, we started moving all of our customers over to Microsoft.net. which seemed the sensible thing to do at the time. The 2 points really that went wrong. One was, as anyone who's involved in software will appreciate, things don't always happen on time. And because payroll is a peak season around about March, April time, if you're too late, then it can start to cause you problems. Now, our plan was actually to have our software ready for the sort of late autumn, fully tested, and then do a soft launch in the January, ready for the payroll peak season. But as often with software development, there were some delays. It was a few months late. All of the indications were that everything was all right, and we still launched slightly later than we planned to. But there were 2 things that really happened. One was that we underestimated the technical knowledge of our customers. So our techies thought that all of our customers were techies as well, which wasn't the case. There were people running small businesses who maybe weren't that technical. And the second thing was really to do with the delay. We didn't understand exactly what the impact of the delay would be. So what then happened? What happened was that I first started to hear that we had issues because our receptionist at our head office told us that she had some calls coming through and the support lines were blocked. People were trying to get through to sales. They started coming through to me. And I started to take some calls, and what I found out was that people were having difficulty loading the software on. Now, one thing led to another, and if you can imagine that with 35,000 businesses contacting you, a normal support operation, you could have coped with a busy season with about 20 people. But we had, the call duration wasn't 5 minutes, it was 15 minutes. And the number of calls that we got was considerably more as well. So you would have needed about 6 times the number of people to be able to sort it out. So what we did was we then moved straight into crisis mode, where we were reactive. We did all the things that you'd expect us to do. We made sure we communicated to customers to say that we were on the case. We put a hit squad in terms of our best developers onto it to make sure that we sorted the issue out so it was easier for customers to load up. We got an outsourced support operation in to help us, and we did all the things that you'd normally do within crisis mode. And it lasted for about a month or so. It got to the point where I was even getting calls at home because I wasn't ex-directory at the time. I am now. But it was one of those situations where, you know, I take great pride in customer service. You know, I'm a difficult customer myself. I'm passionate about customer service. But when you're running a business, sometimes with the best will in the world, things go wrong. So looking back on it and looking at what we learned from it and what my sort of 5 lessons as to, you know, what I've put in place to make sure that those sort of things don't happen again, or if they do happen, we're actually able to control them really early and really quickly. And the 5 things really are as follows. The first one is to make sure that the customer is absolutely at the center of our world. So as a company growing up, before we scaled up to the size we are, we didn't have as strong a product management focus as we do now. So we've got really around the senior management table 2 people that I would always expect to represent the customer, the head of customer service and the head of product management. And we spend a lot more time with our customers now actually understanding what's happening in their world and what are the little things that could actually impact our customers in a significant way so that we've learned from it. So customers at the center of the world is absolutely key to us, and product management is probably the core of our business now, whereas a number of years ago, as we'd grown, it was becoming somewhat diluted. The second thing is to employ the very best people you can. We had one of the speakers earlier talking about firing early. If you've got the wrong people, then they will let you down. And one of the descriptions that I heard someone use some years back was beware of the enthusiastic amateur. When you're in a business which is growing quite fast, quite often you do outgrow the people that you've got. And unless you deal with it quickly, then things will go wrong. And what went wrong for me was actually I had a number of enthusiastic amateurs working for me. I didn't realize it because we'd grown so quickly. And the information I should have got, I didn't get early enough. So the third thing that I put in place was what I call our risk radar. Every month within the group, I've got 5 MDs now who report to me within each of their business units, and at our senior executive level meeting once a month. We go through our risk radar of those things that are on the horizon that might go wrong. And they could be red, they could be amber, or they could be green. And we've actually got 2 columns. We've got, if it's red, with the mitigating action we're taking, is it now amber or will it go to green? So what it helps me do is make sure that we identify even those small things now that might be a dot on the horizon. If they were to go wrong, we already know what action we're taking in order to mitigate it and to minimise it. The fourth thing would be to have a plan B, have a contingency plan. Yet naturally, a lot of us are always optimists. We hope that things are going to go well, and if you haven't got a plan as to what you're going to do if it goes wrong, then you really are scuppered. So I always expect people to have a plan B. However optimistic they are about what the outcome will be, is make sure you've got your contingency and maybe a number of different scenarios as to what you do. And then the final one, really, and it's a very important one for us now, is the key metrics that we tend to look at, both in terms of the processes we put in place to move from what was a cottage industry to industrial strength. So what are those sort of metrics that you look at to make sure that you know what's happening? You know, watching things like credit notes, watching things like peaks in call volumes or backlog of calls that you're dealing with. All of those things that actually tell you the early warning signs that tell you that things might not be right. And we've for a long while focused very much on customer retention. As a software company, our average retention rate is well into the 90%, so very little churn. But actually retention rate alone isn't enough. What we instituted about a year ago was net promoter scoring. Is anyone familiar here with net promoter scoring? So that's why I asked you at the outset, would you recommend this conference to anybody else? The key question, if you're doing any survey at all, in my mind, is to ask that question, would you recommend us to someone else? And then to actually break the respondents up into three groups. You've got your promoters, who would rank you 9 or 10 out of 10. You've got your detractors, who would rank you from 0 to 6. And then if they're 7 or 8, then they sit in the middle. And the very best companies are now using this, and what they're doing is getting, and we're getting a good sample of our customers to actually respond to us. We run it twice a year. We've incorporated it into our bonus scheme as well. And in order to get the calculation, you effectively take your promoters and you subtract your detractors as a percentage, because it's telling you overall whether or not there are enough people out there that will be recommending your brand to others. So not only does it help you identify reference sites, it also helps you work on turning around those detractors. And we make sure that every single customer that responds to us gets a follow-up call, whether they're a promoter that might be a reference site, might refer us to others, whether they're a detractor that's not happy, to find out why they're not happy and what we can do about it. As I say, we've actually built it into our bonus scheme as well. Now, our payroll business, which was the one that I mentioned, had an issue. So we went through that crisis period. It's now the highest ranking net promoter scoring part of our group, with a rating of over 70%, which I understand is what Apple and Amazon and various other companies of that sort of ilk get. And what it allows us to do is to benchmark ourselves against others. So that's probably just about right on time. That's my experience, just in terms of where we've come from, you know, our focus and passion around service excellence, but also the way that we've responded when it went wrong. So I hope that was useful. Thank you.